Azrael is a grim supernatural thriller centered around Eve Carter, Samara Weaving, a haunted journalist who stumbles into a centuries-old mystery when she investigates a string of seemingly random tragedies tied to an enigmatic cult known as the Church of Azrael. As Eve digs deeper, she becomes the target of ancient curses, demonic influence, and her own unraveling psyche. In the first act, the film opens with a devastating house fire that kills an entire family except for one girl, blank-eyed, who repeats the name, Azrael. The next day, investigative journalist Eve Carter, still mourning her sister's disappearance, senses a story, and potentially a clue. Eve travels to the small town of Asheville to dig up the family's history. At the charred ruins, she finds symbols of the Archangel of Death, Azrael, etched in ash outside the home. Locals grow wary. The fire was called an act of God. Meeting with the victim's uncle, she hears whispers about a secret sect born in the 1600s, a cult that worships Azrael, believing that the angel grants peaceful deaths to the damned. The uncle gives her a burned fragment of a faded grimoire. That night, Eve returns to her motel. The girl from the fire appears at her window, whispering, "You will be next." Eve flees and survives an attempt on her life by an arsonist wearing a plague mask. As she investigates the cult, she begins to experience grief-fueled visions of her missing sister. The second act of the movie Descent into Madness. Eve discovers Azrael's cult uses fire to free souls. Their victims die at the moment of release. In town archives, she uncovers records of 300 years of unexplained fires, all connected to mark-bearing, cleansed townsfolk. Haunted by visions of her sister's face in flames, Eve tracks down a former cult member, Jonah, now deranged with guilt. He reveals the cult marked him and sent him back after ritual failure. He shows her the full grimoire hidden in a church crypt, explaining that anyone who reads from it makes themselves a target. Eve reads part aloud in the crypt, triggering her own mark. Doors slam, flames ignite around her, but she escapes. In the chaos, Jonah sacrifices himself, igniting a fire that buys Eve time but leaves her grieving yet again as his body burns. At a recovery hospital, Eve works with police detective Marla Doone, who initially dismisses the cult angle. But after Eve experiences an outbreak of hissing shadows around her sick sister, Doone becomes convinced and vows to help. In the final act of the movie, Eve prepares to confront the cult at a decrepit rural chapel. Marla arrives just in time to see hooded cultists bound Eve to an altar of ash and iron. They chant incantations, calling upon Azrael to strike her. As flames ignite candles and visions consume Eve, she hears her sister's voice urging her to resist. Sister's apparition guides Eve through the fire burst, revealing Marla helped trap the cult rather than victimizing Eve. A battle erupts. Marla frees Eve mid-chant, but cultists surround them. With no arms free, Eve seizes the grimoire and reads a counter-incantation, breaking the curse. The chapel explodes in a wave of quiet ash. Flames extinguish instantly, cultists collapse, dead or unconscious. Outside at dawn, Eve embraces Marla. The grimoire burns in her hand. Eve whispers, "You're free," before dropping it into the embers. But as they walk away, a faint ash pattern forms a winged shape behind her, Azrael's final mark. For my final thoughts on this movie is that Azrael weaves horror and myth into a feverish chase for survival. Samara Weaving's portrayal of Eve tracks a journey from a grief-stricken seeker to a defiant survivor marked by supernatural fire. The ending leaves an eerie uncertainty. Has she truly escaped Azrael, or simply become his next ember? Let me know if you'd like more on the demonology, visual motifs, or breakdown of the grimoire's lore.